Do you have a necklace you love, but it could use a fresh look? In this video, I will show you how you can take a pendant and breathe some new life into it. Hey there, I'm Amrita from Atria Jewelry, and I'm so glad you could join me today. Here I have a necklace I wanted to upcycle. The pendant itself is beautiful, but the beads are a little worn, and so I wanted to repurpose it. And then I also have this other necklace that I got which is broken. So I wanted to separate all the beads and restring it. And while I was doing that, I realized that the turquoise blue beads and the tiger's eye would be a beautiful combination of that brown and blue. And so that's what we're going to do to make this into a beautiful statement piece. And because these are pretty small turquoise, I'm going to sort out these beads and just remove the really large ones. Anything about this size will work. So kind of make a bead soup with these beads and make a necklace. And then this is the pendant that I'm thinking we can string into that. And maybe with some flecks of the silver, but we'll see. This is the pendant. We are going to use the pendant and these metal beads to make a necklace. And then I'm going to use the gemstones that we got from that other necklace that we broke apart. And this one has tiger's eye and turquoise. And I think that's a beautiful combination, very earthy, very southwestern, I think, too. And so going to do that. And then I'm going to use these seed beads for the portion that goes into this bail here for the pendant. That way it can slide right in, and even if it does slip a little bit, you'll see brown and you won't see this metallic string. And I also have a roll of this multi-strand cord, metal cord. I'm forgetting what this is called, but I'll make sure to put it in the notes when I'm editing. I'm going to cut myself 2 strands of 24 inches each, and I'm anticipating the necklace being 18 inches in length, and I will have a little extender, but I'm cutting 24 inches to allow for any movement, especially when we're crimping at the end. You will also need crimp beads. Here's how I store mine. I bought a bulk pack of it and I store it in a little jar. And then I am going to try, once I crimp it, to also put a silver crimp tube on it. Now for the closures, I'm a little undecided as to which way I'd like to go. I'm thinking I will use this toggle clasp. I haven't used one of these in a while, but I also have a handmade eye and hook, or I could use a lobster claw and extension chain. So we'll decide in the end which way we go with that. Additionally, for the tools, I also have the spring that I use to hold the two cards together so that the beads don't slide off. But what I'm going to do is start stringing and have the middle laid out first and the pendant strung, and then slowly alternate sides so that I get even use of the beads all the way up. Because sometimes what can happen is if you start on one side and then go the other way, unless you have the precise count and size of the beads and they're evenly shaped and sized, it can create a difference in length, and I don't want a drastic difference in length. So this spring just is this, actually I got this from the hardware store. It's far cheaper than buying those beading springs online, but I will list both down below. And so all I do is put that in there, and that holds that tight. Since we're stringing on the pendant first, I'm going to string on a few of these seed beads onto the card. I have approximately 10 of these beads on each cord, and I'm just going to see if that will sit right. I think that's just about right. So we're going to string that on and test it out. And here I'm going to string on the pendant. And see what that would look like. So I'm pushing all of the beads through. And there. That looks neater than having the metal exposed. But maybe 10 is too much. Maybe we go with 8 and see how that does. I think that might work too. So I'm gonna do 8 on each. And apart from counting, you could just measure it with your ruler and get that more precise count as well. I'm just going to move that to the center a little bit. And one side's already closed out, so I'm just going to start beading on this side. And I like to start a little with the smaller beads. So that way it gets really close to the pendant. You're working with chips, the holes are so funny in each one, it's difficult to find. Like, look at this one. I don't even think that will last very long. I think that will snap off, so I'm going to switch that out. So the idea behind this is that they kind of lay those two side by side. Let me see how that continues to work. And I'm just going to actually alternate it. So since I started that with the blue first, maybe I'll start this with the brown first, so that they kind of look like a mixed bunch as opposed to having them all with the same colors around. And alternatively, you could have one whole string of the turquoise and one of the tiger's eye, but I like the idea of this being mixed. This is the kind of stuff you do when you have a nice television show going, so that you can bead while you're watching. Again, this is one more where it's a really tiny section, so that's going to snap off too, so I'm going to leave that aside. So now that I have those about an inch strung, here's maybe where I add one of these metallic beads, and I'm going to string both of them through there, and that's going to keep that connected. That, and maybe for this one I add just another small turquoise to cover that little gap there is between the tiger's eye and the metal bead. There you go. So that's one side, and I'm going to do that on both sides. And so when I get started on the other side, you can just take the clamp off of the side that you want to string on. And move it to the other side. Now I'm going to string on the right side. Oops. Oh, that's looking so pretty already. Just keep alternating this a little longer, and then we'll add the metal bead. That's the start of the necklace, and I'm just going to continue doing this till I finish the beads, and then I'm going to add these spacer metal beads in between as I go. Now toward the back, if I run out of these gemstones, is where I can use some of these glass beads, so we're going to hold on to that. If you're enjoying this video, please like, share, and subscribe so you can get notified when I post the next one. Thank you. I think we could go one more length before I switch to the other side. And there we go. Once again, I'm switching the spring to the other side. So that's going to be the main necklace. And then I think I'm going to finish this off at the end here because I don't have too many of these beads left. I don't think I'd be able to get another 2 segments. So what I'm going to do instead is make the loops here, and then we're going to finish the rest off with chain. Let's see what this length is. Eight inches. Yeah, this measures about 9.5 inches, so not going to be enough for a necklace, so I'm going to have to add chain at the end. So now to crimp this, I'm going to crimp one side at a time. And these crimp beads are really tiny, so I won't be able to crimp both the strings on one crimp bead. So I'm going to crimp them separately and make 2 loops. So to do that, you're going to slide the crimp bead onto the card and then slide. Let's see, we also want to have the crimp tube. These are some new crimp tubes. I haven't used them before, so I don't know how good they are, so we're going to try it. Slide the crimp tube on first, then the crimp bead, and then I'm going to fold the crimp bead, I'm going to fold the card in through and go back through that crimp bead and slide that up. And you can use a pair of pliers if you don't have the crimper tool, but if you have that, that works great. So to crimp, I'm going to first crimp it on this inner one, crimp that tight, and then I'm going to turn it and squeeze that, and so that should have a tight crimp. Tug it to check. I broke off the crimp tube because I didn't feel like I needed it. We're just going to stick with the crimp beads. I'm going to put the crimp bead on the other side. And again, fold the card through. And slide the crimp bead up. Clamp that crimp bead. I do that a couple of times. And then twist it. And squeeze that. Close. There we go. And then we're going to pass these cards back through. I'm going to see if I can pass it back through the bead, but if you can't, we'll just cut that off at that point because it's at least gone through one metal bead. So yeah, I can get that through one, and then one on this side. There we go. Try that with one more. I'm going to push all the beads up. There, so now the end of that cord is securely within a bead, so it's not going to pop out. And I'm going to push all my beads up gently. And just make sure as you're pushing them through that you have the placement right. I don't want to have too much of the card showing, so I'm going to make sure that I'm tugging the card through each segment. And that way it's nice and tidy. There we go. Push that all the way. So far, so good. And for the last segment. Now we want to get the same tight finish on the other side. It's always easier on the first side but we're going to try our best to get that tight on the other side as well. Thread on the crimp bead, pass that back through and slide that all the way down. And this is a good time before you crimp it, before it gets too tight there, to push that through the bead. And it's okay if you can't get it through as many beads as you did on the other side. 3 or 4 is plenty. Okay. And just to make sure that I don't lose this while I'm tugging, I'm just going to put my trusty round nose pliers through it. And tug. And twisting the wrist a little helps with that. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to crimp this bead, and then twist and squeeze. That's tight, and I'm going to do the same with the other one. This one's a little easier than that one because now that's holding all of the beads together. And again, I push this through. Push this through a couple more beads before I yank everything tight. So again, just hold this in place so I don't yank that all the way through. Okay. Everything's firmly in place. I'm going to crimp that one. Double check, and that's all good. And now we're going to trim off this excess wire. And since that's nicely in between the beads, it won't affect the wearer. So here we go. That's the basis of the necklace. And now what I'm going to do is attach chain. You could also do like a leather or pleather cord or ribbon. And I think I'm going to do some silver chain. I think I'd want a little heavier chain than this. So, I don't know, maybe this round bolo chain. That kind of looks closer to this metal. So that could be one option. What chain do you think will look good? Would it be a single bolo chain? Or should we go with a slightly larger chain? I think with this pendant, the slightly larger chain would be better. So we had about 8 inches, and we went about 9.5 inches, and I want this to be at least 18 inches, and then with an extender. So I'm going to open this up. And connect it on one end. Connect this on the other end. And since you want 18, I'm going to count 5 on each of this side. We had 9 already, so I just need another 9, so maybe 4.5. And because this is on the left side, I'm going to add another 2 inches for the extender. Cut that off. Oh, not cutting it off, I'm opening the link so I don't waste the link. And on this side, I'm going to do just 5 inches. And then I think for the closure, because we're doing an extender, I'm going to do a lobster claw. And this is from the leftover lobster claw from that other gemstone necklace we took apart earlier in the video. So I'm just going to use that same lobster claw. And there we have the necklace completed. It's very, very pretty. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Have a beautiful day.